guys, my name's Keisha. Today I'm going to be making paratha roti and curry shrimp as good as your grandma's. For the full recipe, click the link below. So to start with, we're going to make our green seasoning, and that includes coriander, parsley, garlic, spring onion, ginger, scotch bonnet, and that's it. So we put all that into a blender, with a little bit of water, a little bit of oil, and blitz it until you get a nice paste. It can be a little bit chunky as well, so that's also fine. Green seasoning is very similar to sofrito and also épices, which are from the Spanish and French Caribbean islands. And the blend of all of these fresh ingredients form the basis of a lot of dishes in Caribbean cooking. So now that we've blended the green seasoning, I'm gonna put this on the shrimp with some salt, massage it in, and then leave it to marinate whilst we prepare our roti. So now we're gonna make our roti, favorite part. I'm doing this old school, directly onto the side rather than using a bowl. So we're gonna start with our flour, and then we're gonna add our baking powder, sugar, salt, a little bit of oil, and then we're gonna use the water to bring it together. Adding the baking powder to this just gives it a little extra lift. We don't put a lot in because you don't need it to rise, but we just need it to have a little elasticity. And that's also why you add a little bit of oil, even though we're gonna layer it with lots of butter later. I absolutely hate flour on my hands, guys, but I'm doing this especially for you. But we're gonna knead this until we form a nice soft dough. You don't need to knead it too much because it's not a bread. And then we're gonna set it aside to rest for a little bit before we get ready to put the butter on it. Once the dough has rested, you want to roll it out on a nice floured surface, not too much because you don't want the roti to dry out. Then you want to take your fat of choice. If you want to keep it vegan, you can use a vegetable-based fat. You can use butter or ghee. I'm using a combination of the two here. Put a really good layer over it. Don't be shy because the more butter in this, the better. But also not too much because otherwise it won't be nice and flaky. Then we need to actually roll the roti itself. Cut a line from the middle at like 4 o'clock. Then take that edge and roll it anti-clockwise on itself all the way around until you get like a cone shape. So pick it up, tuck in the bottom so it's all sealed and there's no edges that are exposed. Stand it upright, poke in the top, and then you have like this soft cone shape. I actually have no idea why we do this. However, the first person that taught me roti was my best friend at secondary school's grandmother, and she was Guyanese. So because she's doing it, I'm doing it. Leave them in the fridge to rest so that the butter can firm up a little bit before we roll them out. Next step, we're gonna make the base of the curry. So in a pan, heat some oil, and then we're gonna add our onions, garlic, and scotch bonnet. Cook them in the oil a little bit till they're nice and soft. Then you want to add all of your spices. Cook them in the oil a little bit until the oil starts to separate. That's when you know that they're cooked. And then add your fresh tomato. I like to use fresh tomato because I just think for something like this, they're just so much better than the tin variety. And then we're going to add the tamarind with the water. Love to use tamarind in this dish because it adds a little bit of a sourness, and also it's an ingredient that is just used throughout the Caribbean in various ways. So perfect for this dish. You know that it's really kind of starting to cook in because the tomatoes are broken down, the spices have cooked into the sauce, and it's starting to thicken itself. So now we can add our parboiled potatoes. Then you can add your marinated shrimp. Make sure you scoop all of the seasonings out of the bowl because you don't want to lose any of that flavor. Give it a good mix, cover the pan, and cook the shrimp until they're nice and pink. And then the curry's done. So before we roast our roti, we asked you to ask me some questions about food. So here we go. I got into cooking because I was always cooking with my grandma. The dish that makes me think of home is chicken Kiev because that is what my mum used to make on Fridays after school. Go-to comfort food, roti. In Central America and the Caribbean, it's called shadambeni, also known as Thai parsley. Imagine if spring onion and coriander had a child. It's the best. Oh, is it called Nikki cuisine? Japanese and Peruvian or something? That is one of my faves. If I've said that right, can we Google that? The quickest curry. Chip shop curry? Oh, that was not too bad. I thought they'd be a bit more scary than that. Now we're gonna roast the roti. Place them on a lightly floured work surface and roll them out till about 1/4 centimeter thick, not too thin. Be careful how you roll it so you don't push out any of the butter, and put it straight onto the tower. We preheated it and make sure it's really nice and hot. because as soon as it gets on there, it needs to start cooking it straight away. You know when the first side is cooked because you're gonna start to see some bubbles come up on the surface. At that stage, you can brush it lightly with some oil, but not too much oil, just putting enough to soak up some of the flour. You want to repeat the turning of the roti, brushing with oil on each side until all the flour has absorbed. You can tell when it's cooked when it starts to look a little bit more opaque and less translucent, let's say. So this particular roti is called paratha, also known as bus-up shirt in Trinidad, which actually means a bus-up shirt, which means an unironed shirt, because all of the crinkles resemble an unironed shirt, I guess. Traditionally, you would use a dabbler, which is a long wooden stick, but I don't have one. So I'm using 2 wooden spoons turned around, but we're just gonna beat the sides a little bit to kind of crush it up. Some of the old school peoples use their hands to beat the roti and literally clap it, but I'm not ready for that yet. My hands aren't ready for that yet. This recipe, plus all of the others that I love to write and cook and eat, have been informed by my life, by my travels, from visiting different places, just having conversations in markets with different people, and just exploring the cultures, the communities, and all that informs all of these different foodways. So this recipe, for example, is a literal reflection of the communities that came from India to the Caribbean during the 1800s, following the abolition of the sugar trade, and these are the foodways that they brought with them. And today, this is very much a part of the fabric of Caribbean cooking. I just love to explore and learn, and I find these things fascinating because I love to look beyond into the depths and the detail of people and how and why we eat the way that we eat. So all of this will be in my wonderful cookbook that's coming out very, very soon. So watch this space. I'm gonna try that. And that's really good. It's really fresh. Honestly, guys, this roti is so flaky and buttery. I mean, we put a lot of butter in it, but that is what makes this paratha just the best. Absolutely delicious. So please try it at home. If you do, comment below, let us know how you get on. Make sure you follow Twisted and myself on all social media platforms. See you next time.